Harihi Om. Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunatsu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavivishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just on the, because you've been talking a bit about that being Kali Yuga, then there's so much difficulty, so we have to change the preaching, we have to change all those things somehow or another. It's only now it's Kali Yuga, it hasn't been Kali Yuga for the last 5,000 years. Lord Chaitanya's mission, it wasn't Kali Yuga. Prabhupada's time, it wasn't Kali Yuga. Whatever, just now it's Kali Yuga. So then some quotes from Bhaktividya Thakur. The age of Kali cannot make trouble for a person who loudly chants the holy name of Lord Hari. In the Brihad Naradi Purana is said, the age of Kali cannot make trouble for a person who always chants Hare Krishna, Hare Keshava Govinda, Vasudeva, and Jagan Maya. Right? So the point is if you're chanting the holy name, then the Kali Yuga is not for you. Kali Yuga is for those who don't chant. So it's a matter of how you want to position yourself. Do you want to position yourself as it's Kali Yuga, then we can't do all these things, or it's Lord Chaitanya's golden age, and so therefore we can do whatever pleases Lord Chaitanya. So it's just a matter of who you want to side with. As pointed out by the previous acharyas, do you want to be a servant of Kali, or known as a Kali Chela, or do you want to be a servant of Lord Chaitanya? So that's the whole point. If it's about difficulties, everything's difficult. Because if that's the thing, the difficulties are there, so we want to avoid them. So why doesn't everyone avoid household life and making money and doing all these things? You don't get much more difficult than that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a matter of understanding that it's Lord Chaitanya's age, and since he's in control of the material world, the material world was created by him simply for the purpose of people becoming Krishna conscious. That's all. It doesn't have another purpose. And all the difficulties are there because people aren't Krishna conscious. Why is there more difficulty in this age? Because people are less Krishna conscious. If you're more Krishna conscious, there's less difficulties. When you say golden age, it means golden age. Everything will go nicely. Right? But we're looking at it, no, it's by my effort, I make it all happen, I'm the doer, I'm the, everything. But no, it's Lord Chaitanya's effort. So we don't have to worry. We just surrender, try to do our best to serve Krishna, and he'll take care of the rest, since it's his material world. It's his Maya. It's his Kali Yuga. Right? The demigods want to take birth in this age because of the Sankirtan movement. But as far as the materialists go, then Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami mentions that the demigods don't even come here to pass urine. So we have to understand this. Yes, without Lord Chaitanya, it's a total disaster. But when you add Lord Chaitanya, then it's wonderful. So that's very important, yes.
So it seems that for neophytes, it's very difficult because, as you mentioned previously, changing always is a position of Madhyama and of course Uttama.
Yes.
But before that, that's the turbulence
right,
happens.
Yes. Means it'll be unsteady. But in that unsteadiness, it's not that it's Kali Yuga, it's that I'm not so advanced.
Yeah.
So anytime someone says, oh, it's Kali Yuga, you can't do all these things, it needs to be translated. The translation is, I'm not so convinced, I'm not so fixed, I'm not so dedicated, and I have so many material attachments, and I actually think the material world has something serious to offer. And this, what it has to offer, can actually be beneficial to the Sankirtan movement. This material world's fabulous. Hey, I've been here since time immemorial, and I'm still here, so hey. So therefore, then all these things that my mental speculation comes up with, that's actually the serious thing. But all these other things, those are pie in the sky because, who can attain that, who can do that. So it actually comes down to a lack of faith, lack of commitment and all that. But neophyte doesn't mean that their lack of advancement has to take that perspective. Right? One can have that inspiration and that to get to the Madhyama platform, to get to the Uttama platform. But if we simply apply the modern intellectual, skeptical thing that nothing's good, nothing's this, nothing's that, but at the same time maintain all our sense gratification's okay, material facilities are okay, because true, how do you say? Skepticism means you would give up the whole social thing and just go out to the forest. But we're not doing that because we're skeptical that anything will work, but I'm still going to try to, get the basics. Basics means basic sense gratification and freedom from misery. So is it? But the neophyte can have that faith that it will work, though I'm not on that platform yet. And so keeping that in mind, then they can keep progressing, and then it will naturally just come to that stage. Right? So that's where we say it's automatic. You have the faith, it's automatic. You don't have the faith, then less automatic.
Manual.
Huh?
Manual.
Yeah, then it's manual, yeah. Like one of those trucks with 12 gears. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, I was thinking that some devotees may argue is that neophyte position, it's not that we don't try, but we are more influenced by Kali Yuga.
No, that's there, but we can't take a position that that's all right. We take a position that that's a fact, but we never say it's all right. So what we've been discussing the last few days is this concept that these lower positions of consciousness are actually bona fide, and that I'm well situated. In fact, I'm more honest than these guys that seemingly are more advanced. So actually, my neophyte position is the perfection. And specifically, my neophyte position. Others' neophyte position, of course, it's very obvious that it's really neophyte and stupid. But mine, now that's like perfection. Because I'm so fabulous, right? So that's what we're talking about, is when the mentality changes that being a neophyte is the standard, right? See, in the preaching mission, Madhyama is the standard. Then the Uttamas take that position. No, they have Uttama realization, but the perspective they take is Madhyama. And for the neophytes, even though they're neophyte and don't have that realization, they take that perspective anyway. Right? That's the difference. We're taking it, no, I'm a neophyte, then the neophyte, I use a neophyte perspective. And in fact, that's better than these other perspectives. Because, we're not the body when I want to be, and we are the body when... In other words, when it's good for me to say I'm not the body and I can mental speculate, do whatever I want, I do. And when people are trying to force me to do things I don't want, then I bring out, no, but we're from this background, we're from this conditioning, so I am the body. So, in other words, it's simply self-serving. It's not about pleasing Krishna, surrendering to Krishna. There is some, of course. Otherwise, why would they be devotees? Why would they be practicing? There is definitely some, and they're way better than any karma. But at the same time, as this kind of mentality can get you stuck for many, many lifetimes. Because the point is that it's mentality that makes the difference on progression or not what you're doing. And then we shouldn't at this point go, see, it doesn't matter what you do. But the point is we are trying our best to do what's recommended. We may fall short of the standard, but we're trying for the standard, rather than saying, oh, we're neophyte, we can't do the standard, so therefore not doing the standard is the new standard, right? It's like, he got the new, how do you say? I'm not sure what's the latest one. Yeah, it was in fashion. It's like the last one I heard, orange is the new black. Like that. So like that. So like that. So, attached neophyte is the new, the new madhyama. It's like that. So it's not like that. No, it's eternal. So it's still. Huh? Oh, the new madhyama is the attached neophyte. Because we see that these positions that we're proud of our position, we're attached to our position, we see things according to that position, and we separate ourselves from Krishna's standards, then that's defined in the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto with Kapila Muni's instructions, as devotional service in the mode of ignorance. So we can't take it that it's the standard and it's okay and it's Kali Yuga and it's fabulous. Because Kapila Muni makes the point is these kind of individuals, even though they're devotees, you respect them in that, but you should absolutely avoid their association. Means you bump into them, you're nice, but you will not spend time with them. So then, if you're a person you're not supposed to be spent time with, why would your philosophy be that universal philosophy that's going to hold everything together and make the preaching fabulous and make, bring in the new age, what the hippies couldn't do, bringing in the age of Aquarius, we could do, right? Is that what to do? Yes.
When those devotees who give this particular argument of Kali Yuga, so does it mean that they are taking support of Chala Dharma for others as well as for themselves?
So are they those who take shelter of this? It's Kali Yuga. Are they taking shelter of Chala Dharma? It depends how they're using it. It means it's not that we don't recognize as Kali Yuga and it's going to be difficult, but it's not an excuse. It's not as Kali Yuga, so we can't do all these things, because what the Acharyas have given us is what can be done. See, Lord Chaitanya is the Yuga Avatar. So the Yuga Avatar is not going to give something that's not applicable, seeing that he's actually in control of the Yuga, right? In other words, the Lord's in control as far as the religious parts. The aspect means the God-conscious part. The non-God-conscious part, that's then what the particular Devata that's in charge of the Yuga is. Right? The Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara, and Kali personified. They do the mechanics of those who are not devotees. Right? And then Krishna in his forms in, white, red, black, and yellow, these are the forms in which he controls those who are devotees. So they're two different things. In a sense, Krishna is, the cause of everything like that. Then, Krishna trumps. He's the one that comes out on top. So that's the position, is that we have to see, is that we have to be very, very careful about using its Kali Yuga for our own advantage. Saying it's Kali Yuga so that we're more careful about our practice, about our situations, about our preaching, to see that we're cautious of the age, know the difficulties, know what we're working with. That's intelligent. Means one of the first points of Niti is know your enemy. The better you know the enemy, the better your position. But we know so that we can avoid the difficulty, not that you know so that you surrender. We're not talking about all these different persons that mentions in I think it's in the earlier chapter, then in 10th canto here, that Kamsa, he spread his influence, so even people who were against him then became his supporter. So we're not talking about that know your enemy. We're talking about know your enemy so you know the weaknesses so you can do. So what's the weakness of Kali Yuga? Someone who chants the holy name is not controlled by it. So therefore, if you don't want to be influenced by Kali Yuga, because it's not actually that great, right? Age of Coral, nothing works, like this. So if that's your dream age, then hey. But if it's not, then simply by chanting the holy name, you're unaffected. And if you're still affected, then chant more. Does that make sense? So the reason that we could say, oh, but that was back Lord Chaitanya's time, it's not 500 years. It's that they were absorbed in the holy name. Therefore, it doesn't affect them. Because you see all around them, there were people that were totally affected by the age. Srivas Thakur, right? Narad Muni, what's to complain about? Even the demons like him. Right? Hiranyakashipu will see him, talk with him, won't let him see his son, but he'll see him talk like this and that. Kamsa, Narad Muni can walk into his palace and all this and that and talk, and he'll respect him. Right? But you see that the Smarta Brahmins, they're trying very hard to, tarnish his reputation. And they set up do all kinds of intrigues to do that. So that's the Kali Chelas. And then those who stick to it, those are the Lord Chaitanya's followers, the Rupa Nugas. So we follow what Rupa Goswami does. You know what I'm saying? We're saying, oh, it's so difficult now. You have governments, this and that allow this more freedom of religion. When Lord Chaitanya was there, they were tolerated, but if they got too much, they had a big festival, then there was a problem. You know what I'm saying? So they were under a more difficult situation than us. Prabhupada was preaching at a time when people did not accept anything out of their own little box. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. It was more difficult then. People were not vegetarians. People had no idea of all these, philosophies and this and that and New Agey stuff. New Age was practiced by a few people on the side, and they were considered weird socially, actually. Now it's an accepted thing, so it's even easier. And now it's Kali Yuga. We're saying, so sad. But it's actually so much easier. Because of the effect of the preaching of Krishna consciousness. These are things we do, we practice, and it goes. What's done here, then India follows, then the rest of the world. So we're thinking, that Paris is the one that sets all the standards and all that, but actually it's Mayapur sets all the standards. It depends on which circle, yes. But you see the refinement that comes here, then that refinement comes in Paris, and everybody follows that. So there's a direct connection there. So it's okay. You understand? Because so that's the whole point is that you see, it's like what Prabhupada says, when there's a flood in Mayapur, means now there's going to be a flood of Krishna consciousness in the world. And you see things happen after that. So the thing is it's in Krishna's control, not in Kali's control. Someone's hoarding gold, breaking the four principles, then he can hang out there. But if we're not talking about that, someone's hearing and chanting about Krishna, he doesn't, it's not his place to stay. He wasn't given that. So to say, oh, it's Kali Yuga, it's not for us. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we have to be very, very careful to appreciate, because otherwise, if we're so caught up in that, how are we going to appreciate what's here in 10th Canto? This affection between the Lord and His devotees, based on all these natural interactions, because these are the natural ways of interaction. The modern society, of course, although they talk about a natural lifestyle, they don't like anything that's natural. Right? That how you're supposed to deal in relationships, they don't like that. It's supposed to be whatever I feel like at the moment I should be able to do. But how can that work? If at any point someone can change their perspective and what they're doing, and I think you call it changing the goalposts. You're going for one thing and then it changes. Who's going to take that person seriously in a relationship? Right? How can you? They're totally unsteady. And then we're talking about a philosophy that is the standard. So now amongst those people with this, how many close friends do they have? How many people they can really rely on? I would have a tendency to say about 0, but maybe they have 1, 2, 3. But a good chance no. I mean, it was said before, farther back, I think from the 1800s, someone gave the quote that if someone in their lifetime has one really good, solid, close friend, they should consider themselves lucky. Because a lot of people don't. So that's over 100 years ago. Back when these kind of things were more valued. You had empires, you had nobility, you had a sense of that kind of, dignity. Well, nowadays, dignity is not a quality people look for in some way. Before it was, dignified gentleman. He had, he stood by what he. Because before it was, you had some understanding, you went with it. If it meant you went down with it, you didn't mind because you went down in a dignified way. Now it's everything just changes. Just what's the move? Because it's about simply survival. So it's slightly different. So the point is here, there are standards of how parents deal with children and how they play, different things like this, how, all these rasas, how they interact with each other. There are standards. Why? Because this is how Krishna likes it. Because the point is if Krishna likes it and you're absorbed in it, it works. It's perfect. That's the whole thing. Because absorption in Krishna, that's the perfection. Not, this quality or that quality, that's the perfection. We're forgetting that qualities are just another thing to engage in the Lord's service. Knowledge and skills is the basic thing, but then with that there's an attitude. That attitude means all the qualities that go along with it. So those qualities are also tools to engage in the Lord's service. But being on the really gross platform for knowledge and skills is not seen, so being that's pushed, then where does that make qualities? Makes it spiritual. You understand how the proportion works? So just that I'm up to the point of this, then that's like spiritual. But in the Vedic system, no, this is also just more of the tools. It may be subtler, but it's the tools. Like you have pots and pans, and you have a recipe. So that's the whole thing. It's not spiritual. When it's engaged in the Lord's service, only then it becomes spiritual. We're taking it being good, being nice, that's spiritual. No. It's to be engaged in the purpose of spiritual. But until it's engaged, it's not spiritual. Does that make sense? So these illusions that the karmis are so nice and this and that, it's kind of like what newspaper you've been reading. What magazine, what news report, what have you been reading? Does that make sense? So that's the whole point is that since when? You may say okay, they'll use these as tools for their materialism. The smart people know how to use them for that. And they may not even know they're materialistic. But the point is they're tools to be used. But it's only, like you see, humbler than a blade of grass, more tolerant than the tree, respecting others, not looking for respect. These are qualities. This is the etiquette. And what's the point? Someone who can do that then can chant the holy name. Right? Why? Because these things please Krishna. So Krishna sets the standard on in what relationship, what activities go on. What are the flavors? What are the tastes? Right? That's set by him. Then, if we see them in relationship to the Lord, then they're perfect. Then that we taste that rasa. But if we try to put our modern spin on it, then neither can we appreciate anyone else's relationship in the material world. We can't appreciate Krishna's relationship with the devotees in the spiritual world. So then what's the whole point of that mentality? Other than, everything's useless, and so therefore I'm just left with me and my mind, and that's it. And if that's comforting, hey, but don't try to sell it to others. Does that make sense? So we have to understand that these pastimes are beyond that. And because of that, that's why all these devotees have such a taste. Because otherwise they'll say, no, but how can they have this taste? This is going on. That's 100% mundane. It doesn't have anything spiritual. It doesn't have anything of any glory to it. Right? Using the intelligence in that way is not an advantage. It's not a glory. Yes.
Vrindavan pastimes is difficult to understand because apparently Brijbasis, they don't distinguish between Tatastha and Svarupa Lakshana. For them it's all towards Krishna, for them it's all the same.
Yes.
But for us, we're bewildered, and then we can appreciate. We basically will look at Tatastha qualities of devotee and Krishna,
right,
and then establish our relationship on that basis.
Yes.
And then we don't see the Svarupa Lakshana,
Yes. Yes.
which should be prominent, but it
Yes.
isn't.
Yes.
So then Vrindavan pastime, as a continuation from yesterday's
Right.
discussion, like Ramachandra, it's very prominent that the majesty.
Yes. Yes.
But then Krishna, they just play with the kid.
Yes. Yes. So that's why then ourselves as sadhakas, then we're following the path of Maryada, or that of following the rules and regulations. But it's the advantage is that therefore you don't do something that's not favorable. The whole idea of following the rules and regulations is to do that which is favorable. Because if we don't do that which is favorable, then how are we going to progress? And we don't have that natural, spontaneous love that they do in the spiritual world. Therefore, we need the rules and regulations. But what are these rules and regulations based on? They're simply the, you could say, the formalization of the activities that they do in the spiritual world. It's not that it's something else. We're used to, let's say you go to school, but real world's something else.
Right.
Most people will tell you what have they learned in 20 years in school you don't really use. It means those who are being honest, of course, you know. But, you know, those who are still illusioned by it, they'll still say that, no, this is great, because they're either they are an illusion themselves, so that inspires them, or they want to keep others in illusion so they can make profit from it. Right. So, but the actual point is in the Vedic system is what you learn is what is being used. So the activities that we do in sadhana bhakti, it's not that those activities will be left when we come to the perfectional platform. Just they will be performed on the spontaneous platform rather than the formalized mechanical platform. So since we only see mechanics, like you say, we'll see the Sarup Lakshana, see the Tatastha Lakshanas. But we're trying to get it where we see Sarup Lakshana, because that's the only thing that actually matters. Means if, in performance of our devotional service, that it is a matter of Sarup, whether we understand it or not, chanting the holy name, associating with devotees, worshipping the deities, living in the Dham, hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, these are transcendental activities. Now, whether we fully understand them or not, then one of the things we can do is we can see the symptoms of the Tatastha Lakshana. So in that way, it is a symptom of advancement. But to take it that that's the goal, that's a mistake. So that's what we've been discussing the last few days, is that we should not make the mistake of taking those Tatasthas actually the goal. No, the Sarup Lakshana is the goal. That complete surrender, that faith in Krishna, that affection for Krishna, that's the actual point. Then the Tatastha Lakshanas, those are used as means for that service. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. Because otherwise, if that's not understood, then we'll be bewildered as to how, like, all these Tatastha Lakshanas, basically you'll see that Yudhishthira Maharaj basically manifests them all. But someone like Bhima, not necessarily. But he's not seen as any less of a devotee the Pandavas are seen as all devotees. So as devotional, they're all seen on the same platform, along with Draupadi and Kunti. Right? But as far as the social etiquette, Yudhishthira is the senior, and then they have the mother, and then it goes down Bhima, then Arjuna, like this. So the point is it's whether they're manifest or not, they have the qualities because they already have that pure love for Krishna. So yes, as a symptom, it's there, but to take it as a goal, then that we have to be careful of. In the beginning, we might take it as goals, but we'll still see there's problems because trying to get one of those tatastha lakshanas on its own by our own mental speculative process, right, is going to be difficult. As it's said, for the jnanis, life is difficult because they're trying to get qualities by either doing nothing or doing something that they think is going to get them their particular benefit. But by chanting the holy name, by taking process in the devotional process, these qualities come naturally on their own. So even if we want these, the only way is through that Surup Lakshana. So that's the point, that's the key, that surrender to Krishna, that surrender to the holy name, surrender to the process given by Lord Chaitanya to Rupa Goswami and handed down through the acharyas given to us by the founder acharya. Then this is how it's going to work. If you follow that, all the other things will come. And if we don't follow, then they come a little less. Right? So in other words, if we're going to use the path of karma, then we have to have the piety for it. You want to follow the path of jnana, you have to have the piety for it. But to follow the path of bhakti, you don't need any material piety, because the soul by nature, that's their position. So this whole idea is that through material endeavors, with material good qualities, with modern material things, you don't have the karma, you can't do it. Right? Even we say, oh, there's so many, how do you call it? Self-help systems. But I think there's only around 50. So that means out of 7 billion people, there's 50 that kind of have an understanding of how things work. Right? And most of them, they're watching people who are successful. So the guys who are successful, they're just born with the karma, they're doing it. So they have the karma to do it. The guys that write the books have the karma to observe it and appreciate it. And apply it in their own life. Like that. But the people who are buying the books and going to the seminars, they're the ones that don't have the karma. Otherwise, they'd already be doing, because the other ones are already born with it. So that's the whole thing, is that you want to work on the mundane, then what you're born with is what you got. That's it. You don't have more. And they show the thing, yes, the guy, he was born in the ghetto and all that, and at the age of 5, then, he had a friend, they play white friend, and so then he tried to interact like that, and then it was pointed out that, he wanted to go, hey, can I go to his house and all that, and it was pointed out, no, you can't. It's why not? We're friends. No, you're black, he's white. You can't. And it's like, what? And then this guy grows up to, be some big successful, whatever it is, this, that, blah. Like that. And how many of those stories are there? Right? So, point is he had those qualities, but there was some impurity of the mind that he was born in a family that didn't have necessarily those qualities. So he was able to go out. Otherwise, you can go, there's millions of other people in the same situations that you come back 20 years, 50 years later, they're still sitting there. It doesn't change. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's the whole thing, is on the material platform, whatever you have by your previous karma, that's all you have. So if you want to work by the material, then Krishna will go, okay, go ahead. No, I can do this. Okay, do it. But if you surrender to him and take part there, therefore from the power of the holy name, all good qualities develop in that devotee. So they have qualities beyond what they would have. but they're qualities that are developed in Krishna consciousness, so you can apply them in Krishna consciousness. You can't guarantee you can apply them outside Krishna consciousness. Hence, somebody who's very developed, very sophisticated and everything, like that in Krishna consciousness, from that endeavor, if they step outside of Krishna consciousness, they just become another face in the crowd, nothing special at all. But then if they come back into Krishna consciousness, then it's all happening. It's like through the looking glass. So that's the way it is. We have to understand this is Krishna's world, Krishna's in control. So devotional service will develop all those qualities. But we have to have that faith that Sarup Lakshana is what our goal. And all the Tatastha Lakshanas will develop. But if we think that Tatastha are the goal, and by this, then we'll make devotional service happen, it's a good chance it won't happen. Because where in the Shastras does it say that that's the process? It never does. So then where are you going to get the process to use? You won't get. So therefore you have to turn to the karmis and the modern kind of things, because they actually have faith that maybe this will work. So it doesn't. And then the problem is we'll take on their mood, and so we'll just make it even worse. So that's why then association, we have to be very careful. So this is, how can we take advantage of this advanced association? Rather than how can we take advantage of, taking on the karmi mentality, because we think, oh, they're successful, they got the attitude, but they also have the karma to go with the attitude. Right? We can have the attitude, and everyone just notices you have an attitude. That's all. So it's kind of like, okay.
Regarding the Maryada, so
regarding the Maryada.
The Maryada is a function of the Rasya, Rasa more prominently. Therefore, among the